guys, I'm back. Now, I know it's been a while since I've talked about BFDI, but oh my god, it's been 1 year. Oh no. Oh no. That's not good. That is not good. Well, so, I saw this video from this infamous user known as Leechgang, and it was pretty good video. I think I agreed with most of the points there, except for, the entire main thesis. Because when I think of the worst character of BFDI, there's always been a different character that comes to mind. And I figured that this was just the perfect time and place to release my opinions about it. Now, personally, I've never been much one for hatred of BFDI characters. Honestly, the more I've grown up, the longer I've watched this show, the less I understand why people actually, hate these characters. I'm just so caring and empathetic that I just don't hate any of these characters. When they show me a vote to eliminate screen, I just start crying, and I'm like, no! Why? I love too much! I love too much! I've heard a couple of times about people who just, really hate Profiley who've talked to me, and I've just never understood it. One, because Profiley is the best character ever. Fuck you. And I will kill you if you ever come to me with that opinion again. But secondly, the main reason I get is that Profiley's annoying. But for me personally, this reasoning has never really quite clicked, never quite made sense. But just in general, I don't think any of the characters in BFDI are annoying. I think the show is well written to the point of where each character brings their own unique charm to the series. Okay, with the exception of post-split Fiery, back in the day, I hated that motherfucker. I thought that fucker was the most annoying thing ever. You should have seen when he got eliminated. I had streamers, I had banners, I was celebrating. It was like the 4th of July. There was fireworks and everything. But the more time that's passed from that, the more I just think that was the folly of youth, or maybe just very powerful autism. However, a general trend I've noticed in the community is that you people really love to hate these characters for some reason. It feels like almost every time I go up to a member of the Object Show community, they'll always have this one random Glub Shitto who they just love. Oh, don't even get me started on Glub Shitto. He's fucking amazing. But then there'll be this random character that they fucking hate. Glorb Shitto? Don't even get me started on that motherfucker. I hate Glorb Shitto. I see that motherfucker on the streets, it's on sight. I'm shooting him dead. And I guess it turns out that I'm not above that. Though, it is an interesting circumstance which I haven't really seen in any other fandom space. Well, except for the Amazing Digital Circus fandom, but that's a topic for another time. I think it really all ties back to the contest, which this show has centered around for nearly 2 decades now. When every episode you're at risk of seeing your favorite character eliminated, all their plot lines fall into shambles and then have basically no screen relevance ever again. The characters that you like slightly less are gonna start to piss you off, because why were they chosen over my favorite Glub Shitto? I mean, we have, in real time, seen a person on Twitter find a new favorite character after their old one got eliminated, develop a sexual fetish for said character, make a video essay about said character, then start a voting war for that character, then promptly crash the fuck out on Twitter when that voting war fails, find their new least favorite character and prey on that character's downfall for outlasting their favorite character, then get outed for having a fart fetish Discord server with children in it, and then leave the internet never to be seen again. This all really happened in the Object Show community for those unaware. Okay, I'm trying to keep this video under an hour long for once, so I'm just gonna shut the fuck up and get to the point. So as I said, as I've grown up, I don't really get annoyed by BFDI characters anymore. Hell, I mean, some of the characters that people find the most annoying tend to be the ones I like the most. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not a hater. Nah. I got hate inside of me. But I find different reasons to find BFDI characters hateable. To use an analogy, characters like Profiley are like pineapple pizza. It's not a lot of people's thing, and not a lot of people like it, but the people who do like it tend to really, really love it. However, even if you hate pineapple pizza, you have to admit, nonetheless, it is interesting. I'm willing to bet no matter who you are, when I said pineapple pizza, that gave you some sort of reaction. No matter the reaction, it captures your intention, and that's what I really like about characters like this. On the other hand, though, we have plain, boring, sauceless pizza, basically just bread and cheese. Now, while some people may be a fan of it, some people may even love it, it is certainly hard to be invested in. On its own, it typically doesn't piss you off, but when somebody force serves you plain pizza when there are so many other better toppings and flavors of pizza you could be having right now, that kinda pisses me off. For example, a character like Foldy is someone I find pretty boring, to be honest. But that's understandable. Foldy doesn't do much throughout the entire series of BFDI, and in the rare moments that she is actually given spotlight, she typically actually shows some something interesting. It's why I don't really dislike Foldy as a character. She may not be the best character ever, but she never really overstays her welcome. She never steals the screen time from characters that really deserve it or need it. This isn't the type of character that pisses me off. The type of character that pisses me off is the character who is given ample screen time, ample opportunity to do something interesting, but just never once does. And in my opinion, that character is Winner. Now I know, I am basically pissing on a freshly deceased corpse. But I mean, where would this website be if it weren't for opportunely timed rage bait? I'm also not gonna pretend like I wasn't laughing at the blob at the very moment of death. I mean, look at the fucking live reaction I had. Winner, you're out with 20- Yes! 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 Okay, that actually makes me very happy. Holy shit, okay. Bit rude. I do hate Winner. Anybody who knows me knows that I hate Winner ungodly. I'm not upset by this. I'm not even remotely upset by this. I've been wanted Winner out since episode 1.
What?
But I do want to make something clear first, because I've been misinterpreted a lot of times in the past. A lot of the anger I'm going to show in this video is performative. This entire thing is a performance, mainly. I don't really care that much. These are my opinions, but, like, if you're a Winner fan, that's cool. That's, fine. I think we can all come together and agree not to hate each other because of our opinions on a fictional character, with the exception of the David fan base. Those people are fucking deranged. I would know, I'm one of them. Now, having said that, fuck you fucking Winner fans, I hate- Winner started their BFDI career in a way that would pretty much define the rest of it, by saying literally nothing. In retrospect, BFB 16's introduction to all of these characters was just so bad. We are given basically no insight to what any of these characters' personality is actually like in any way whatsoever. It feels more like a visual tech demo than an actual introduction to any of these characters. I think this is a problem that a lot of object shows have when they do debuts. In fact, the only good example that comes to mind of like a really good debut that introduced every character was the I Want In debut. I just searched up that show because I remembered I hadn't seen it for a while, and then it turns out that the creator of that show was a massive fucking pedophile. God damn it, man. What is wrong with people, bro? I mean, even looking back at the original BFDI debut, this just did it so much better. I mean, sure, all of the characters are one note, but it was something, it was a note that we could extrapolate off of. And they did. A lot of these characters went from being one note to something much more. Here, on the other hand, I don't think the writers had any of these characters' personalities planned out ahead of time. I mean, to be fair, I don't really blame them. They already had 64 characters on their hands. Adding another 23 of them would definitely be a creative writing challenge, to say the least. But it left the voters with nothing of substance to chew on, making this vote as vapid as possible. It basically just became a contest of who has the best visual aesthetic, ironically treating these characters a lot like objects. And when it came down to it, Winner, and by extension Price Tag, just had the most interesting designs of all the characters. And to this day, in my opinion, this is something that Winner has never gotten past. 9 times out of 10, when I see a Winner fan asked why they like them, the answers is always the most surface level shit, like Winner's design or Winner's fucking voice. Now, while other aspects are often brought up, it really just never cuts all that deeper. I think this is a problem you can trace back to before this debut even happened. Hell, Winner had a fan base before they were even an official character, and it was really just based off of all these surface level aspects, and while some people did something creative with that, the BFDI team really didn't. Winner's debut into Teapot is really, really bad. Naturally, you'd think them being introduced into this cast with 40 other returning veterans and Price Tag, they would be given something to make them stand out from the crowd, something that shows that they're the new blood in the BFDI gene pool. No. They really do nothing in Teapot 1 that makes them stand out whatsoever. I mean, their team just kind of forms around them and then they win the challenge with no trouble whatsoever. Again, there's really nothing of substance to grab onto here, and I think it's because ultimately Winner has no personality. Now, I hear what you're saying. Oh, amen, 88, you fucking Winner does have a personality. They're a nice, cheerful, calm, chill guy. How the fuck did you get in here? Now, when I say Winner has no personality, I don't mean that literally. Winner does have a personality. It's impossible for a person not to have one unless they're like a dead corpse. No, what I mean is Winner's personality is incredibly bland, incredibly boring, and not unique in the slightest. Now, when you think of Winner's personality, what words come to mind? I'm gonna use the BFDI Wiki's description and say nice, cheerful, and calm. The problem with that being, just look at the percentage of just Teapot's cast that also fits with that description. And unlike any of these other ones, Winner's personality has nothing else that makes it stick out. Like, for example, just look at Donut, my goat. Nice, cheerful, and calm is definitely a way you could describe Donut and Teapot. But by doing that, you'd be missing all of the large intricacies of his personality. His anger and his constant seek for justice is a huge part of who he is at his core, and his arc of changing into a more cheerful and calm guy, despite the fact that he is a very, very uncalm person, adds dimensions of depth to his personality, because Donut is much more than just a nice, calm, cheerful guy. Donut is like a balloon, constantly inflating and at any second could pop, and unleash all that anger out into the world and ruin his calm demeanor. Although, to be fair, I think modern Teapot writers have forgotten this aspect of Donut, and the balloon is just a deflated sack of rubber now, so that's great. As another example, look at Bottle, someone who you'd also definitely describe as nice, cheerful, and calm. But those personality traits actually tie to the very core of Bottle. Bottle is too nice, too cheerful, and too calm. Because of that, her aloof demeanor often gets her in trouble and killed because she was just too calm. She rolls with the punches a bit too easily and often gets punched. These personality traits aren't just ways of describing Bottle, they add to her unique, airheaded demeanor, and they are also at the same time character flaws. Which brings up how Winner has no character flaws, but we're gonna get to that later. BFDI is at its best when it has characters with big personalities. You know, if you're not capturing the attention of the screen, what reason is there to keep you around other than your 60 different competitors? A huge problem that modern Teapot has is not actually playing with the personalities that make their characters so unique and fun. And I think this can be tied back all the way to Teapot 1 with its debut. Winner and, to be fair, Price Tag are not treated as debuters should, in my opinion. For an example as to what I mean, let's look at BFDI in comparison. The debuting characters like Donut, Yellowface, Ruby, Gelatin, and Puffball, and Fries all have a chance to show off their personalities in the first 2 episodes. Their big personalities naturally attract screen time, and you get to know them very fast. This is how an introduction to new characters should be done. In comparison, Winner and Price Tag are barely introduced, if at all. Now, granted, they had to share a lot more screen time with the 42 other competitors, but still, BFDIA was able to introduce all its new contestants, which there was a lot more of them in a lot less time. And I think it all boils down to the fact that they were something new, something we hadn't seen before in BFDI, and the same just cannot be said about Winner and, to a much lesser extent, Price Tag. Though, to be fair, Price Tag is given much more personality and uniqueness than Winner's, like, literally nothing. In Teapot 1 and 2, they're shown to be a bit of a little rascal, a curious little fiend type of character, which is pretty fun, but not the most unique if I'm being honest. But Winner makes Price Tag's middling performance look like a goddamn gem in comparison. Again, Winner displays basically no unique personality across these 2 episodes other than vague backstory allusions, which we'll get to later. And since Teapot 3's writing change basically just copies the homework of Teapot 1 and 2, yeah, Winner never got all that more deep, which is honestly something that can't be said for Price Tag. I think what it all boils down to is how a majority of BFDI characters are written, to be one note. You can pretty much describe almost any BFDI character with one word. In fact, you know, I'll show you right now. Actually, here's a fun challenge. Close your eyes and guess who I'm talking about with each word. Principled, anxious, codependent, immature, menace, grumpy, riz, aura maxer, fat, borderline personality disorder, troll. BFDI has a very interesting way of writing characters. Not sure if it's been coined anywhere, but I'm going to call it reverse flanderization. The characters start out as simple one-note archetypes and not much more, but over the course of time, years even, they become fleshed out and almost like real people. A level of depth is added to them, which is genuinely very impressive considering where they started. And their core archetype or character trait is never abandoned. It's rather used as the framework that builds up this much more deeper character, which they actually are. I find this writing style to be kind of incredibly incredibly awesome, which is why it pisses me off a little bit that in the entire BFDI cast, Winner, and to kind of a lesser extent Price Tag, is the only one who doesn't follow this pattern. From day one, there is nothing that makes Winner stand out from the rest of the crowd. Nothing that makes them like an interesting, fun cartoon character. No, Winner is literally just a normal guy. Winner doesn't ever do anything, make a decision that I don't think 95% of the people in the world would also make. They're literally the living, boring embodiment of the common consensus. Now, I hear what some people may be saying, the idea that Winner isn't exactly unique in this condition. There have been a lot of BFDI characters at first glance who have no central archetype, no one note. Characters whose whole thing is just being a regular person. Well, yes, those characters do exist, but I'm sorry, I still think that they're a couple rungs above Winner. Just as a random example of a character, let's use Gatey. Completely random choice. I don't know why I chose Gatey, honestly. As pointed out by somebody, I'm not sure who, maybe it was the demons that talked to me in my sleep. Gatey is the quintessential straight man character of the BFDI universe, or the get a load of this guy character as we're calling it now. I actually like that name a lot better. That's what I'm going to use from now on. The character in every sitcom ever who's supposed to be the audience surrogate, you know, the regular guy reacting to all the madness that ensues in the most regular way possible. You know, get a load of this guy. Now, you probably don't know, but I actually have quite an interest in sitcoms, so I feel like I have a bit of an expertise to talk on this topic. What makes your quintessential get a load of this guy characters, your Jeff Wingers, your Jerry Seinfelds, your Jim Halperts, is that they're more than just the regular person's POV. They have their own personality outside of that. And while being highly critical of their wacky, goofy bullshit that happens in the show and the characters that do it, they still often get involved in said wacky, goofy bullshit. On the other end of the spectrum, you have your Leonard Hofstetters, characters who just exist to comment on how weird and wacky everything is while having no actual personality in themselves. Literally just going, get a load of this guy, or that's a bit weird, and then like never saying anything interesting ever again. Now, I bring all this up for as Gatey was the quintessential get a load of this guy character of BFB, I think that's what Winner was supposed to be for Teapot, or at least specifically the S. It's a team filled with a bunch of wacky, goofy, nonsensical kind of guys, and Winner was supposed to be the level-headed, clear, collected, calm one. They're pretty frequently the only one on the S with any actual coherent thoughts or anything to actually say about the challenge. They're kind of the unofficial team leader. Now, going back to this fucking get a load of this guy chart, Gatey actually scores pretty high on it. Because despite what some people may think, at least in BFB, Gatey is more than just the regular guy character. She has a lot of personality outside of that, and by that I mean she's a fucking Redditor. She can be kind of a smug prick and a bit of a loser sometimes, which actually fits really well with her whole get a load of this guy aspect of her character. It reminds me a lot of how Jeff Winger of all characters subverted the typical aspects of a straight man character and kind of deconstructed them. However, this is just her BFB personality. Like a lot of characters, Teapot kind of ruins this, but this isn't a video about Gatey. I don't know, maybe somebody somewhere made a video about Gatey. You could watch it another time. Anyways, how does Winner score on this chart? Well, despite what you may think of my opinion on Winner, Winner actually doesn't score that bad on this. They're certainly better than a fucking Leonard Hofstetter. Winner's ability to actually get along and participate with the weirdness and madness of the S is actually quite nice. It's an aspect of their character that's actually interesting. It only took 18 minutes in the video to find it. This is why I don't really think I had a problem with Winner while they were on the S, because it's a dynamic that works for them. Although granted, it took this dynamic away from a lot of far better characters just so Winner could have the spotlight. In the early stages of Teapot, Winner is kind of just like a less sassy version of Balloony, which is quite nice. Hey, wait a minute. I guess Winner's still copying somebody else's homework. However, while I kind of want to like this version of Winner, not only is it not that new or still not even that captivating in the first place, but it also is just too rarely shown in my opinion. I can really only think of Teapot 2 as a good demonstration of this. In fact, in Teapot 7 and 8, Winner borders on going into straight up Leonard Hofstetter tier. I think a lot of that core personality of Winner was lost during the writing change, and as the writing started to finally get better, Winner was put onto Cloudyay, which was just never a good team for them. A team with basically all of Teapot's heavy hitters at the time really makes Winner stand out as a sore thumb. I think a big problem with Winner's characterization is that they just do not work outside of the S. Again, look at Cloudyay. Really the only interesting character interaction they have on this entire team full of heavy hitters is with Yellowface, and it's also a dynamic which is mostly relegated to the background. It also starts to boil my blood a little bit when Winner outlasts actually really good characters like Barfbag, Yellowface, and fucking Pillow. Also, after Yellowface Yellowface's elimination, they pretty much have like no connection back to the rest of the team. It's not a coincidence we never see them do anything with Cloudyay ever again after this point. And their friendship with Price Tag and I guess Book has just never been interesting at all. The damage has already been done at this point. Winner is now just kind of a boring character, a bit of a waste of space. And I think that Winner was always doomed to this outcome. Their personality was just never strong enough at all. It's really just not something that could have ever lasted or really even worked outside of the S. So that's what Winner is, in my opinion. Nothing but a boring character who wastes a majority of the screen time they get towards the later half of the series, to the point of where they just become a kind of fucking annoyance. Oh yeah, there's also this. I should probably talk about this too. So one of the less superficial reasons why I hear that people like Winner is because of the whole winner-loser backstory thing, which I'm gonna be honest, is still incredibly superficial. I didn't care for Winner before I heard their backstory, and I didn't care about them after either. Giving a character a sad origin story is not an excuse for a personality, and it also doesn't help that the backstory is also kind of fucking garbage. I've heard a lot of people trash Teapot 20 because one's origin story is like the most basic backstory ever, and yeah, it is. It really is. But with Winner and Loser's backstory in comparison, it makes one's backstory look fucking award-winning. It's literally the most basic, stupid thing ever. Winner, loser perform together. Loser wanna be popular. Winner doesn't wanna be popular. Loser perform without winner. Winner's sad. How original. The common consensus seems to be that Loser was entirely in the wrong in this story, which I think is just stupid. Like, if Loser wants to be popular, if that's his dream, Winner shouldn't have the right to hold him back from that. The problem isn't that Loser was popular and Winner wasn't. The problem was that they stopped being friends afterwards. Fucking, that is literally just BoJack Horseman. Like, it was on both of them to keep the friendship alive. Like, Winner's whining about how he never reached out to them, but like, you never reached out to him either. And there's no conflict here whatsoever. Once Loser just comes back, now they're just friends again. And not to mention, like, the most boring friends imaginable. There's like literally no chemistry here at all. It's like Winner's almost allergic to having any interesting conflict whatsoever, or having almost any character flaws whatsoever. Everything this character is used for is just immensely disappointing. Their backstory, boring. Their personality, bland. Their conflicts, non-existent. Their debut was just a massive letdown. In every way imaginable, Winner, you are just the worst character in this entire goddamn show. Now, I could end this video here, but there's something else I want to go over too.
Talk. Ring-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
Clock is a character unlike Winner, who the little scraps of personality that we do get from them actually interests me. BFB sent them down a very interesting path, and I just couldn't wait to see how Teapot would take it. And Teapot completely fucked it up, but all of that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for this blue son of a fucking bitch. In Leechgang's video, she kind of goes over how Loser kind of derails and ruins every character that he interacts with, particularly in BFB 7, where the entire cast is affected by Loser's absence, but I don't know, BFB 7 was never that weird to me, although maybe I'm just distracted by what happened the following episode.
Roll my flowers out! Roll my flowers!
Bounce by you! 3,000!
What? What the fuck? No! Okay, golf balls out! Golf balls out! Golf balls out! Golf balls out! Golf balls gotta be out! I love golf balls. Golf balls gotta be out! Golf balls gotta be out! Holy shit! Fuck! This is bullshit! Hey, ball, you are dirty! You are the goat! You stay strong! Do not go down! You do not go down!
Talking to me. Whatever.
Shut the fuck up, golf ball! You don't get that other goat! The goat will stand strong! The goat will stand strong! Golf balls gotta be out here, man! Golf balls gotta be out here! Okay, golf balls gotta be out! No! Fuck! No! Hey, ball! You're supposed to be the chosen one! You're supposed to be the chosen one! No! Donald, how can you do this? You are my top guy! You are my top guy! Fuck sobriety! I'm going back on the Hennessy!
I never recovered from that. I never recovered. In the arms of an angel. Out of all the Loser followers, Clock is by far my favorite, and that's even including the returning veterans. Like his fellow team members, most of his screen time in BFB is completely absorbed by Loser. But if you look between the lines and find the small slivers of personality that shine through, you find something quite interesting. In BFB 1, he's granted an actual shit ton of screen time between the whole Lie, Ice Cube, Teardrop beef. From this interaction, we can get that Clock cares a lot about doing the right thing, or maybe just telling people what to do. He is a very strict stickler, and this is one of the most important aspects of his personality. It's also important to mention that he does just kind of watch while all of this happens and doesn't actually do anything himself. Clock's catchphrase, "watchers are wannabes," is actually very ironic when you consider this character's full history, and actually says a lot more about them than you might first guess. We can also see that Clock is kind of insecure. When Fanny confronts him, he like shits himself for being hated. And the ability that Fanny has to admit that she's hateable, it, like, changes his whole worldview. You can already start to see the building blocks of how someone like Clock becomes a loser follower. Outside of this, he actually has a very frequent relationship with 4. Like, he, surprisingly more than anybody else, is responsible for policing 4 and making sure that he recovers people. And in BFB 10, he's the one who starts the challenge of bringing 4 back. And when 4 comes back, he's the one responsible for making sure that everybody gets recovered, as well as making sure all of the eliminated contestants are, in fact, eliminated. Which is just a total dick move to Stapy and my goat 8-Ball. Again, he's a very strict stickler for the rules, and he's a bit of an asshole about it. Kinda like Donut, but the rules that he cares about are a lot more stupid, and he's not one to crash out over them, just get really bitchy about them. Teapot verges on doing something really interesting with this aspect of Clock's personality, but then just misses the forest for the trees entirely. It all boils down to Clock and Yellowface's relationship, which is honestly the most interesting Yellowface relationship in the entire show. Way fucking better than Winner and Yellowface's relationship. Holy shit, 10 times better. What's important to point out for now is that Yellowface calls Clock boring, and I think despite my enjoyment of this character, he's dead on when he says that. Clock is a boring motherfucker and also a complete loser. He's the type of guy who I genuinely think would like watching paint dry. And to understand this, let's go to BFB 6, probably Clock's biggest moment in the entire show, where he decides to defend his team from the contagion, which is entirely spread through eye contact, by watching the crack in the wall and seeing what comes through it. Eggy is not wrong to call Clock an idiot, because he is a fucking idiot. Clock brings up that he's won half of the challenges for his team, which is true. He's also seemingly very helpful in episode 2 as well. Actually, Clock is really always trying to be helpful in like everything he does. So this is when I realized what Clock's true problem is. What Clock's deal is. He has a massive hero complex. Unlike all of the rest of them, he doesn't just look up to Loser. He wants to be Loser. He wants to be known as the guy who helps people get recovered, wins challenges for his teams, stops brutal attacks on Teardrop's vocal cords. He's the guy who wants to be loved by everybody, but nobody really likes him. As Yellowface said, he's really boring. He's not fun to be around like Loser. Let's go back to Clock's dynamic with Yellowface, because I think it perfectly encapsulates this whole idea of Clock that I've been laying out thus far. Or at least it would have had Teapot not fucked it up. Yellowface is almost the exact opposite of Clock. Whereas Clock is stern, serious, strict, and ultimately forgettable and insecure, Yellowface is completely nonsensical, has no cares for the rules of even nature, and actively cheers at other people's death. And he is not boring or forgettable in the slightest, nor insecure. He is who he is, and he doesn't really give a shit whether you like him or not. And yet despite that, he's generally far more renowned amongst his team members of the S than Clock is. People like Yellowface because despite how much of a bastard he is, he's fun to be around. Yellowface validates all of Clock's insecurities, that he is forgettable, that at best he's tolerable, and really nobody likes him. And this is proven without a shadow of a doubt after 4 brutally murders Clock for being a nagging, annoying little bitch, and nobody notices. He is dead for a full 5 episodes, a full 2 years in the universe of BFDI. And despite the fact that he was there every time somebody needed to be recovered, nobody did the same for him. It's no coincidence that BFB pre-split basically decided to end with its last serious note on Clock. This is a perfectly ironic moment here, and it was clear Clock was being set up for something big. But no, you just had to come in and fuck it all up. I kind of implied before that the S was kind of Winner's team, but I don't think it was ever supposed to be. I think the S was supposed to be Clock's team. Because Clock, unlike Winner, has actual interesting interactions with almost every member of this team. His banter with Yellowface is just an example for how well he could have interacted with the rest of his team. Clock does not like silly characters or lollygagging. He's an incredibly boring and unfun guy. He was supposed to be the hey, get a load of this guy character on the S. He was supposed to be the team leader. He takes a surprisingly parental role with Icy and Rocky, kind of treating them like they're his children. He's able to communicate with Bottle surprisingly well, only to get annoyed when she does something stupid like getting herself killed. And Cloudy, oh my god, Cloudy. Teapot 2 establishes that Cloudy is basically just stealing shit and is basically just a full-on criminal. I really would have loved to see Clock's reaction to this and how it would have just exploded into a bunch of piss fights. But no, Cloudy was taken from us far too soon, and the only character interaction that actually matters with Clock is this fucking blob. After the writing change, it was pretty standard that whatever the characters were doing during Teapot 2 was now their entire personality, and in Teapot 2, Clock really wanted to be friends with Winter, so now his entire personality is just borderline obsession with Winter. All of that nuance to him, gone. Everything about him being a strict stickler, gone. His relation with most of his team members, gone. Him in any way being the team leader, gone. Now, he's just a Winter follower. That's his entire personality. They try to wrap it back around to him being forgotten in Teapot 10, but it just doesn't work in my opinion. It seems a lot more focused on Winter's side of the story than Clock's, and Clock wanting Winter to be in the mainstream again so they're not forgotten just doesn't have anything to do with Clock or their hero complex. Clock isn't even very helpful anymore. They kind of just sit around and gawk about Winter in most of the challenges that they're in. I'm not going to pretend like this is entirely the writing change's fault. I think there were bigger plans for Clock that were supposed to happen other than him just obsessing over Winter, and unfortunately I think those were lost in translation. No, more than anyone, the real culprit of who killed Clock's character is undeniably Winter. If they hadn't debuted, I wholeheartedly think Clock would be a much better character. Leechgang talked about how Loser derails and degrades all the characters while he's around, taking away any personality they had and just making them into a Loser follower. While that is true about Loser, that change was never permanent. He never derailed a character to the point that they just never would be the same again. The same cannot be said for Winter, because what happened to Clock is unfortunately permanent. The writers have seemingly forgotten that he had any personality outside of just being a Loser follower, and that is that, I guess. There's an alternate universe where Clock is the leader of the S, and he took his vow to never be forgotten on his teammates as well, where despite their many gripes with each other, Clock still looked out for them, never forgot about them, always cared for them. And in the end, he would be on a team of people he could actually call friends, people who would remember to recover him. Hey, maybe he even learned to be a little bit goofy in the process. But that didn't happen. Kind of a downer ending. Yeah, that's why Winter kind of sucks. 8-Ball for Season 7. Let's get 8-Ball in there. Come on now. Alright, so that certainly was a video that I made. Yeah, it's been a while since I've made any BFDI object show content, and, you know, honestly, I kind of missed it. I'm happy to be back to it. You know, I've been feeling pretty disillusioned with the state of modern Teapot. Teapot 23, I did not like it. See the live stream if you want to see my opinions. And from what I've heard of Teapot 24 from you guys, it looks like I'm really not gonna like that either, so that's going to be an interesting stream coming up. And I guess because of that, I've gotten pretty cynical about BFDI in general, so I just haven't had that drive to make BFDI content for a long while now. But, you know, after this, you know, I remember how much I liked it, and honestly, I'm back. There's a ton more characters that I just like to analyze, honestly. I feel like my earlier BFDI content kind of fell into the trap of theories and predictions, which is honestly something I just don't think you should do with this show. You're just always going to end up disappointed, no matter which way you go. Yeah, the writing quality has been not great recently. But honestly, I want to do a lot more character analysis, because I really do like doing that. Honestly, for the longest time, it felt like all the views were in the theory videos and all that shit, and character analysis, well, YouTube just wouldn't fucking recommend that at all. But it seems like things have changed. I got Fro Frakacho to thank for that. No way I pronounced that name right. That guy, you know, that guy, yeah. But things are different now, so, you know, I've got the idea for a Team Ice Cube video and a Balloony video in the future. Also, you know, I want to apologize to all the Winter fans who've been in my audience who've been waiting a year for me to fucking post a BFDI content, and then they get hit with this shit. Yeah, sorry about that. If you made it this far into the video, you're real G, top G. You appreciate the criticism, you know, that's awesome. The BFDI retrospective video is still coming. Everything's just been the fucking mess this summer, so yeah. The next video is probably going to be a video about Endicopia, because I posted that on the posts and it got like a shit ton of reactions, so you guys really want to hear me talk about Endicopia, so I'm excited to talk about that too. I have some things to say about that. I'm definitely going to try and upload more, I swear, like maybe once a month. That's the accomplishment of once a month uploading. This summer's been a complete shit show for me, and this next coming months, I'm gonna be real busy on a bunch of shit. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, I gotta plug the IDK show again because YouTube just doesn't fucking want to at all. It's fucking annoying as shit. So I'm gonna plug it at the end of my video where nobody fucking watches this part. But if you haven't already, watch it. What are you doing? You got to the end of this video. Might as well go watch it. I'm sure you've seen me advertise it before. I doubt that you've gotten this far if you aren't like a loyal follower. It is the reason why I do stuff on this channel in the first place, it's to promote that. I don't want to be too cynical about this. I still enjoy making all these videos. I do actually, really enjoy it. It's not that cynical, but really the reason is it is my passion project. It is what I want people to see. So, go check that out. Go check that out. I got to work on episode 3. Episode 3 is going to be wild. If episode 2 and episode 1, there was a big quality increase. Episode 2 and episode 3, you'll see. And if you've already checked it out, I don't know, like, share it with somebody. Show it to people. Talk about it. Have a discussion about it. That's about it. I'll see you guys in the next 5 years. Goodbye.